So here we are today, friends. John, my friend, is here today, and he's going to share his sister's stories pertaining to Elvis. John?
It's nice to be here. Back around 1970, my father died, our father died, and he left just a little bit of money, a few $1,000s to each of us. I was newly married and went and bought a car. My sister said, "I'm going to Las Vegas to meet Elvis." Sure you are. And she went there and she started bribing maitre d's. $50 here, $50 here, and she got to sit in the front several nights. And then she showed up in, I don't know whether it was Cleveland or New York next, but she took all of that money, and it was only about $10,000, and she started making these shows. In Cleveland, she was in the newspaper for being the first in line. And one day, one of Elvis's guys noticed that there's that same girl and came back and asked her if she'd like to meet Elvis and his father. I think she met his father first. And for some reason, Vernon kind of liked her. And so he took her to meet Elvis.
She was very striking. Beautiful.
Yeah, she was a nice looking girl. And someone in the group, and I don't think anything's done without Elvis directing it, someone in the group said, "Do you want to go with us to Texas and just follow with the tour? And do you have your stuff with you?" She said, "Yeah." So she ended up flying to Texas with them and finished that tour. And after that, for about a year, Vernon would call the house and tell her about the tour, where they wanted her to meet them, and that he would have a ticket waiting for her at the Columbus airport, and that she would fly there and meet them and then continue with them. And spent time in Vegas with them. In fact, some of those tapes are her and Vernon talking about the slot machines in Las Vegas. They were just dropping nickel after nickel or dollar, whatever they were playing. And Vernon was kind of talking about his strategy for the machines. And she just got to know the guys, the Memphis Mafia, they called them, Red West and his brothers, and Dick Grobe, and she met the Colonel. In fact, the Colonel gave her that teddy bear right there. And
Very cool.
she seemed to get along okay with him, although she didn't see him a lot. Elvis gave her this bear and this scarf.
Wow.
And I mentioned a funny story that Priscilla had given Elvis a bunch of $50 scarves, and he got them mixed up with the scarves that he gives away at the concert. So he's throwing these $50 scarves out, and Priscilla's just like, "I can't believe he's doing this." But he didn't know the difference between the two. So I don't know if that's a good one or just one he gave away, but she kept it because, of course, he gave it to her.
Sure. And it would be safe to say your sister dated Elvis. They had a relationship.
Yeah. Brief. I'm sure brief, because I started looking. My sister kept meticulous records, like this calendar. Everything she did, when she got on his plane, where they went, everything. And I started comparing it to Elvis' divorce, when Miss Thompson, I forget.
Linda Thompson.
Linda Thompson.
Sure.
How could I forget that? And it looks like my sister was just before the divorce and just as he started to know Linda.
I see.
Right in there. Because I know that she stayed one time in the suite next door to his that he had designed for Priscilla. Priscilla unexpectedly showed up. Becky wasn't there, but Priscilla didn't like whoever was there, so she threw my sister's new shoes out of the closet. So that was an awkward moment.
Sure.
And she did find two girls hiding in the closet one time.
Really?
She came back to her apartment, and heard some noise and thought it was a burglar, and it was two girls hiding in the closet. So crazy thing.
Hoping to meet Elvis.
Yeah, hoping to meet Elvis. They thought they were in his room.
I see. Interesting. So we're looking at a lot of memorabilia here. And naturally, that's kind of my intrigue tying in with the history. And with your sister, Becky, I mean, I'm seeing an autograph, of course, the stuffed animals, but there's a lot of scrapbooks, a lot of tapes, and we'll save this piece for last because I think that's like the really unique pinnacle piece from a memorabilia perspective. Scrapbooks, when you and I jumped in and I glanced at a few and you'd shown me some prior, there's a lot of photos documenting your sister at the shows. It seems like she was down front, like you'd said, for the shows that she attended. There's a lot of great photos, a lot of kind of behind the scenes photos as well that really truly placed her with Elvis and the entourage. That'd be very safe to say, correct?
Yes, and it's also interesting that if Elvis paid her way to Vegas, she had to keep his schedule. She couldn't go downstairs to get a Coke without a bodyguard. But if she came on her own dime, she could do what she wanted. Nobody cared.
I see.
And then, of course, they had those famous get-togethers after the show up in his suite where they sang. He organized people. She said he was like a bird. He could not quit singing.
Based on the conversations here on the cassettes, which she was really, maybe at the time it might have been kind of on the slide, but it's very cool that she saved all these conversations. You know, had enough foresight to record them, save them. What were some of the conversations and with who? Vernon, Red?
Yeah, there were. Let me say this just real briefly. When my sister passed away, I couldn't find this stuff. Although I'd seen it, I knew it existed, and we couldn't find it. And we cleared the house out, a lot of junk and stuff. But she had an antique cigarette machine, a large commercial antique cigarette machine. And I noticed that it had a bottom to it where you stored, I guess where they stored the cigarettes and stuff. We searched all over the house and one day came up with the right key, opened it up, and all this stuff was stacked in it. Wow. And so some of these things have not been out of there for years and years and years. They finally saw the light of day. But as far as those cassettes are concerned, I think my sister recorded that not to be sneaky, not to catch someone in something. But I think knowing her, that was her evidence that she had done these things, that she knew these people. And I think it was perfectly innocent because she never, as long as she was alive, she never played those for anybody.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting.
But Red West is in there, Vernon Presley's in there, Ed Enoch's in there, Richard Sturban, of course, his backup singers, and a couple of other people are in there. I've listened to bits and pieces of all of it, but I haven't had time to sit around and listen to every single one of those tapes.
Most all were recorded when Elvis was living. Correct?
Oh yeah,
Yep. Okay.
they were.
So this is not post Elvis passing.
Yeah, they were either in Vegas during the show, or in fact, I think they all were because of some of the things that I mentioned, asking to bring her friends with her, so to speak. So they had to be within close proximity, or no use bringing anybody over.
Right.
It's kind of amazing, and you probably know more than I do. I do know some celebrities, but a lot of times the conversation is about anything other than the business. You know, it's about the house they're getting ready to buy or the manager that they're upset with.
Are
So some of just mundane things like that. With Richard Sturban and Ed Enoch, after Elvis, and you know Elvis had a reputation, he liked someone for a while, but he had a roving eye that was legendary. So none of those things lasted very long, with the exception of Linda Thompson and, of course, Priscilla and a couple others. But when that didn't last very long, she had gotten to know Ed Enoch and Richard Sturban. And there was a lot of that conversation is when she was with Ed and she got mad at Ed, and then she ended up dating Richard, and a lot of it's just really kind of stupid boyfriend-girlfriend stuff.
Sure.
It was really boring for me to listen to my sister on that. So I haven't listened to all of it.
No, understood. The bottom line here is it's all so well documented. I mean, it's, because today there's so many people that will come forward and maybe have met Elvis one time or interacted once or twice, and they suddenly have developed this relationship with Elvis that never really existed. Mm-hmm. Where with your sister, she's been off the radar for the most part until now in a large way.
She wouldn't say anything. She felt such a loyalty to him that he offered her things because she said she was careful never to admire a piece of jewelry because he had a reputation for taking it off and giving it to you.
Right.
So he offered to get her stuff, and she said, I see people take from you every day. I just don't want to be one of those guys or one of those people.
Sure.
And so she didn't. She took the knickknacks, the trinkets, the memories, but she would never, I said, why don't you write a book? I hope you write it. It's not an expose, but she had funny stories about him, funny stories about things they did. And I thought it would make a cool book because I haven't seen a lot of it in other books. But she just felt this tremendous loyalty where she didn't want to put any of his business out there.
And she never did until she passed.
Right.
Which is really, it's really commendable. And I guess maybe in a way it's sad that she's not maybe gotten to experience a lot of what other people that interacted with Elvis got to experience as far as some of the limelight since he's passed and so forth. But she's certainly left a lot of great memories, the recordings, the photos, which, you can't fake that,
Yeah.
and the notes, and then these address books, if I'm correct, document all the phone conversations as well. So
she's got Elvis number and all of them. Of course, she got Red West, everybody in the Memphis Mafia. You got many of the backup singers in there. Who is the DJ that Elvis knew all those years?
George Klein?
You always got George Klein in here. It's kind of fun to go through them and say, oh, I've heard of that person. And she just kept notes on everything. We showed this once before, but she documents so much about, where she was and what hotel they stayed at and what plane she was on. One time she was on the Oak Ridge plane, another time on Elvis plane. I'll tell you what was embarrassing about Elvis's plane. They landed in Texas, and she had on a white pantsuit.
Okay.
And she was to be the first person to exit the plane, and she did. And she rolled down the stairs.
Oh, my.
She said Elvis was so embarrassed he didn't want to come out of the plane because he's cool, he can't have people falling down on the steps. But she told me a lot of funny stories like that.
Which her flights are even documented.
Yeah.
She saved
everything.
And dates. She's put dates on everything. Like when a scarf was given to her, all the ticket stubs.
Yeah, there's Schilling's luggage that she needed. I guess for some reason she needed his name on her luggage. The note says she needed it to take her luggage on Elvis's plane.
Jerry Schilling.
Jerry Schilling, yeah. So she documented everything because, quite frankly, she may have thought nobody would believe it because she was just going to Vegas to meet Elvis, and everybody, right. But
and then she also spent time at Graceland.
yeah, I can't say she was there for a long time, but she was a guest at Graceland, and his home in Bel Air, and they did a lot of funny things to amuse themselves. I mean, the whole group, not just her and him.
Sure.
The guitar pick that I've got, he was playing guitar at Graceland and set his guitar down, and she took the pick. So my brother will like this. But he had a whole box of them, so it's not like he would miss it.
And your interaction, you had attended shows, correct?
No, I haven't been to one because I thought Elvis was going to keep going. And I was invited to a party after the show in Columbus, and my sister and I had one of those sibling relationships.
Sure. Sure, understood.
And we got in a snit that day, and I wasn't worried about it because I can go to see Elvis anytime that she goes to see him. I'd rather see him in Vegas anyway. I didn't worry about it. And so I never did get to go. Elvis passed away, and she came in, and he was on the couch, and he had tears coming down his face. And from what I understand from her, anyway, that he had a form of glaucoma that he dealt with.
Correct.
That occasionally would cause him tremendous pain. And one other thing about that couch that I thought was interesting, that they were watching films of his show, and he just wanted to see how it went over, because he never was satisfied. He was a real professional. And my sister mentioned him, do you see how those people are going crazy? And they're going crazy. And he said, sometimes I don't even know who that guy is. I don't know what the fuss is. I mean, what a humble attitude to take towards your performance. He just couldn't even understand his own power when it came to entertainment.
Wow. What do you say after that? That's fantastic stories, and I know you've got plenty. There was one note you'd mentioned that your sister had stated to you at one time that she had gotten so known within the inner circle and so forth. She's like, I could probably get you a job. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd been married by that time about 3 to 4 years, and she said, Johnny, I could get you a job. You know, I could get you a job as a gopher. Elvis sends people to do stuff for him. And she said, he pays his gophers about $50,000 a year. You know, I could get you a good job. And I knew right then, I happened to be studying the Bible to be a minister at the time.
Sure.
I knew right then what my wife would think about it.
Right.
And I would rather stay married to my wife than go work for Elvis. So I dismissed that right away.
Understood.
Not that he'd even hire me necessarily, but there's no way that I'm going to even risk not only my spiritual goals, but I certainly wasn't going to risk my marriage either.
No, understood. Well, that's interesting. Not a lot of people, if the conversation came up that Elvis offered you a job, very few people could say, hey, Elvis offered me a job.
Yeah.
But you were certainly with your sister's connection there.
Well, he didn't offer me, but she claimed that she could talk him into it. The only thing I ever personally got from him is he had a message sent to me through my sister thanking me for the compliments that I gave him on when he recorded Way Down. And so she was on her way to see him, and I said, you tell him he's still the king, as far as I'm concerned, after hearing that record. And she called me, and she said, Elvis wants me to thank you for making the comments that you did. So.
Wow, very cool. Wow.
But when I first heard him as a kid, Hound Dog, as a kid, I told myself the world just changed.
Wow.
I knew it'd never be the same again.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating, really is. And at that point, you would have never dreamed your sister would have gotten to know Elvis.
No.
The memorabilia again. It's just there's souvenirs from Vegas. I'm seeing a bar of soap that was.
She claims she took that out of his bathroom. I threw it away, but she had a nasty Band-Aid. His jewelry sometimes would cut him. The big clunky jewelry, he was always getting cut here, cut on his fingers. But the Band-Aid, I couldn't handle anymore. That thing was getting so crusty and stuff, I threw it out. But she saved anything she could find.
And the hair. Tell us about the lock of hair. I see a date on there.
Yeah, this is Elvis Presley's hair from August 1972 from a Las Vegas haircut. And the gentleman that cut his hair a lot,
Larry Geller.
Larry Geller, exactly. And my sister happened to be there when Larry was cutting Elvis's hair in Vegas. And when Elvis got up, he saw my sister staring at the hair. And he goes, do you want this hair? And she said, yes. So he swept it up and put it in this little baggie. And there's a little baggie inside of this larger one. And my sister, typical of her, wrote the name, the date, and where the haircut was taking place. And you can tell when you look at it, it's hair of all different sizes. Typical haircut, little short pieces, longer pieces,
Sure.
swept off the floor, but preserved since '72 in a baggie.
What a souvenir.
Yeah, that's kind of cool to have.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and
It was
thank
my
you for
pleasure.
sharing about your sister and her relationship with Elvis.
Thank you. I'm so glad to meet you. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right.